The barn is officially burned to the ground yet again in Orchard Park this time, and the Chiefs have the same result. They come away with a victory and are going back to the AFC Championship game against all odds and all the naysayers. We're going to give you the breakdown with Matt Derrick live from ChiefsDigest.com right now on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. This miraculous post-game live stream from Locked On Chiefs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, is brought to you by LinkedIn. You can find your job and the qualified candidates that you're looking at easier and faster. Just post your job for free to linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Welcome back to the show. The Chiefs have pulled it off. We're going to break it all down for you here on the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team every day for free on every single platform out there, starting right now live on YouTube, where you can like this video. You can subscribe to this channel, and you can click that bell so you find out the next thing that we do, which is, yes, going to be tomorrow. So we are here 5 days a week for you, plus sometimes in the off season, as well as on our text line at 816-357-8781. Go get signed up for that, because there's all kinds of stuff. And a lot of you didn't think this was going to happen. Most of the country didn't think this was going to happen. We're going to break down what the cost was for this game, what it means to go back to this AFC Championship game. And we're going to start right now by breaking down, silencing all the critics, all those people who chose the Bills and didn't really give the Chiefs much of a chance. I found it shocking, Matt, that the national media was decidedly in the Bills' corner on this one, and not many people thought the Chiefs were going to be able to pull this off. It's one thing to break the mold, but to do it in a game that comes down to the wire, where you're able to shift and continue this evolution that we've seen this season, is miraculous. I think this is the best game they played of the season on both sides of the ball, and they got it done. Is there anything that can stop them from taking this and rolling it forward next week?
Oh, Lamar Jackson is about the only
that guy.
can. I mean, you're right. I mean, this was close to a complete performance. I mean, Josh Allen also played an incredible game on the other side, and that's how Buffalo was able to be a huge part of this game until the very, very end. I mean, that was just the tip your hat performance. This was two absolute top quarterbacks in their prime, slugging back and forth, and two pretty good defenses too. I mean, this wasn't a shootout like we've seen in the past, but this was two heavyweight fighters just kind of testing their jabs, and wasn't like a haymakers. It wasn't that kind of fight. It wasn't like Rocky and Apollo Creed at the end or anything, but it was just some good old knockdown street fighting between these two teams. And eventually, I mean, at the end of the game, to me, it was once again going to come down to which team blinked first, which team made the most mistakes, and both teams stumbled a little bit in the second half, but wide right, Buffalo made the final mistake, and that was the one that cost them.
I have to disagree with you just a little bit, Matt, about both defenses playing well. I think the Buffalo Bills defense really took it on the chin most of the night. Obviously, they allowed a couple of field goals early, slowed the Chiefs offense down when it got near the end zone. But overall, I thought the Bills defense was struggling the entire game. And it really comes down to watching what Kansas City's offense did. And I'm sure you had this out there. What was it? 7.7 yards per play in this game for the Chiefs offense. You were talking about that most of the game, and at some point it was like 9 yards per play almost for the Chiefs offense. And obviously towards the end, when you're running the ball and you're taking knees, that's going to throw off the average, but it was closer to 9 yards. The Buffalo Bills defense struggled all night long from what I saw, but the Chiefs defensive line and running the ball against the Chiefs defensive line was a problem. The Chiefs defense gave up 182 yards on the ground. That is not a good sign going forward, but they got the win against Buffalo. They were able to slow Josh Allen down when it mattered. Still a fantastic game from the Chiefs, and from the offense stepped up at times.
Well, the remarkable thing about me was the way that these two offenses went about it completely and totally differently.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, the Chiefs defense did make, Kansas City work for it. So, and I'm listening. Mike Edwards and Willie Gay's
Mike
neck.
Edwards it's a neck, as we understand, as Matt's
on
giving
Edwards
it live here, folks. Edwards was one of the two guys we're going to talk about later in the show that might be one of the costs of this ball game. The two offenses taking it to them differently.
Yeah, and the other one I want to circle real quick is, as Andy Reid described Joe Tooney's injury as a right pec. That is definitely not what you want to hear. So let's watch and see what happens with that one this week. But that one is worrisome. But but the Chiefs, I mean, and Buffalo, they went about it two completely different ways. I mean, the Chiefs defense made Buffalo fight for it. They had, 14 plays, 11, 12, 15, 16 play drives. Chiefs had only one drive double digits. They had 1 10-play drive. Everything else was just moving down the field like, Chris, you said. I mean, they were just moving down field at lightning speed. The second half was the key. I mean, and the Chiefs had the two drives that they struggled with. I mean, one was because of the McCole Hardman fumble, and the other one was the punt. And the Buffalo defense at least gave themselves a chance in the second half with those two stops. And maybe you can say, when I say the Chiefs stopped themselves, I'll listen to you. But I mean, that was at least one of the ways that the Bills were trying to win this game, was just to completely and totally control the clock and protect their defense a little bit by keeping them off the field and keeping KC's defense on the field. I think you saw a little bit of that working. I mean, I think certainly the Chiefs defense looked like it had signs of wearing down at times. They really, till late in the game, didn't really have much of an answer for the Buffalo run game. And it was really only coming up with a couple of key stops at key moments. And like I said, Buffalo blinking a couple of times. I think Sean McDermott made a couple of coaching mistakes. I think Josh Allen took his shots. I mean, he tried, but at the end, I mean, I think that Patrick Mahomes was just a little bit better today, and the Chiefs defense was better today.
37 minutes for the Bills, 23 for the Chiefs on time of possession. Sorry, Ryan. Just want to point that out.
Yeah, and on the night, just to reemphasize this, 361 net yards for the Chiefs, 368 for the Bills, yet they ran a ton more plays, 47-78. A gross ineptitude there. And unfortunately for the Bills, it backfired on them. The Chiefs actually ended the night on a fumble, a punt, and then the end of game run out there. Those were their last 3 possessions. So effectively, the Chiefs got 6 possessions to the Bills 8. And in the end, it still wasn't enough. And I found it interesting that even the broadcast crew had seemed to kind of shift the tide that, hey, Patrick doesn't have targets. He's not going to be able to do this. How do they hold him? The conversation shifted. And I feel like this game really exemplifies what they've been able to do to step up and say, you know what, we can run the ball when we need to. We can chase Josh down. He was caught from behind several times tonight by hustle plays, by defenders that had already been beaten. This is a team that had to give everything to it every time, and they did. I think that's something that feeds into next week as well, Matt. Can they repeat this, given the injury situation is going to be what it is?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what you're going to have to do. I mean, that Baltimore's offense is going to be tough, so you're going to have to be able to keep up with them. I mean, you saw what Baltimore did against Houston yesterday. That is a powerful offense. So you can't bank on your defense turning in another great performance. I mean, you're hoping that this defense continues to do what it does, which is don't give up more than 24 points. I mean, they did that once again today against a offense playing really well. So, hey, it's first team to 25. If your offense can get there, you're feeling pretty good about it. But, you have to be ready to get into a shootout with Baltimore. And so, yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are going to have to do exactly what they did in this game, which is move the ball in big chunks and big plays. You're going to have somebody else other than Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce making plays today. Obviously, it was Isaiah Pacheco and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Without those two guys contributing heavily, Chiefs don't win this game. So, yeah, I mean, to me, if the Chiefs are going to another Super Bowl, it's going to be because the offense has woken up and is finally delivering some A-plus performances in addition to what they're able to do defensively.
Yeah.
And I do think that they start. Yeah, and I do think that they started to show great signs in this game, going punch for punch with the Buffalo Bills early in the game. Yes, they weren't scoring touchdowns, but they were at least scoring points. That's very important. But a key stat for me in this game that just is crazy, 1 for 4 on third down for the Chiefs. They only, and I'm not counting the kneel down at the end, and 1 for 4. They had 4 third downs in this game. That's all they had. That is nuts.
Yeah, that's
At least
really
with Bateman.
really ridiculous. The fact that they just never even got into those situations. Hey, still red zone was a little questionable. 2 of 4 in the red zone, 2 of 4 in goal to go situations. So once again, I mean, could have been more efficient there. I mean, the Chiefs would like to be able to punch it in at least 75% of the time. Hey, small sample size, one possession would have made a difference. McCole Hardman was 1 yard away from making it. And as Andy Reid said after the game, hey, A+ for effort, but you can't do that in that situation. And like Chris said, on a first down play, just kind of you take it down and punch it in because you got 3 more chances to do that. So that was the real killer there, but Chiefs survived it.
You absolutely
They
need to
did.
know you absolutely need to know the possession. Sorry, Ryan. They did. We need to get to break, and we will be right back to tell you more about the Chiefs headed to the AFC Championship for the 6th time in a row in Mahomes' career right after this. At the start of the new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
I think it comes down to after the momentum, the back and forth. I did have this game 27-28 Chiefs, so it's just off a touch, but it is about momentum. And as I was watching, it felt more and more like same old story. This is going to come down to the last possession. It actually didn't not. And I think that's a little bit of a surprise to me in that it was a maturity aspect. And I think, Matt, as we see that they've had to mature through the season with all the passing struggles, they've had to mature by elongating their ability to run, emphasizing new things. That, I think, bodes well going into the AFC Championship game. And that's the next leap that they have to take. Like you mentioned in the last segment, you had contributions, obviously, from Isaiah Pacheco, who I think is criminally underrated to the stood in there. They have to have more. But I feel like this team has proven to me in the last 4 outings, we won't leave the Chargers where the starters didn't play a ton, that they can adapt to what they have to do to get the job done on both sides of the ball. Is there anything that dissuades you from thinking that they can continue that trend?
No, because I think, once again, we kind of saw what is the MO of this team. And, is that it's a team that can make adjustments, especially defensively. That's been a huge key this year. I mean, hey, there have been a couple of times where teams have gotten them. This was one of those games that, hey, Buffalo had a really good first half. They put up 17 points, and at that point you could certainly look back and say, hey, it's not that day for the Chiefs defense, but what do? They make the adjustments. They figure out the tweaks. You're down Mike Edwards. You're down, without Willie Gay. Josh Allen is gashing you. So, what do? I mean, all of a sudden you're playing a lot of base, and you got Leo Chanel out there spying Josh Allen to keep him in place. You're finally, you're crunching down in the run game and shutting down James Cook and keeping him contained there. Stephon Diggs, once again, you shut down, even though, I mean, that deep bomb from Josh Allen that I think that would have been 70 yards through the air. It seemed like if Stephon Diggs caught that. That was the one you had to breathe through. But, once again, I mean, they shut down the top target for the other team. I mean, Khalil Shakir certainly looked like it might be the breakout star of this one. But you hold Buffalo at 7 points in the second half. That's the adjustments that this team makes. But I'll tell you what, I think the biggest part of maturity that I've seen from this team in the past month has been the quarterback. Because, what we have seen all year from Patrick Mahomes has been Superman. It's been Patrick Mahomes trying to put on his cape, to put this offense on his back and drag it as far as he can. And it's finally sunk into him that with what he's got this year, and what he's facing, because I don't blame this completely on the receivers. I don't blame it completely on everything, in that room, because some of it you have to give the defenses, the way that they're playing the Chiefs. They are, and we've talked about it from really the beginning of the season with you guys, has been teams are playing the Chiefs with one idea, that if you want to kill us by 1,000 paper cuts, go for it. But teams aren't going to let Mahomes beat them deep. They're not going to blow zone, not going to blitz him. They're not going to do those things. All they want to do is rush for, contain Patrick Mahomes in the pocket, make sure he doesn't escape, and just wait until the Chiefs offense makes a mistake. That is entirely what they're trying to do. And with the zone coverages are even different than what he faced last year. It's not just two deep, safeties. It's now the zones underneath that are all entirely designed to take away Travis Kelce. They were, now that they've figured out how to incorporate Rashee Rice, it helps. But the fact that in the last month, to me, you don't see Patrick Mahomes trying to force it into windows that's not there, that he's throwing the ball away more, that he's game managing. That's what he's got to do right now. I mean, that's what's available to him. So being efficient and doing what he did today, I mean, that is, and just not taking the risky throws. I think he learned today, hey, wait a minute, you know what? I'm Patrick Mahomes. I can be a game manager and average 9 yards a play without having to throw the ball 50 yards downfield all the time, and without having to push the ball downfield as much. You know what? I can throw underneath. I can find Rashee Rice in these empty spots in the zone and pick up 28 yards. I think he's learning that. And obviously the Chiefs learned to lean on the run game today, because not only Pacheco, but Clyde had a couple of great runs.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a team effort on offense. And I think a lot of it was Patrick Mahomes just leaning on the guys around him and not trying to do too much, just playing within himself and playing within what he's got.
It was officially 6.5 yards per carry for Isaiah Pacheco today. Patrick Mahomes had 23 dropbacks, ended up with 6 scrambles. That is the definition of balance, something we've talked about ad nauseum. But it is not the only form of it. The defense stepped up when they had to as well. I thought Chris Jones was obviously not getting the broadcast attention that he deserved, but he was everywhere. He had a number of plays, got to the quarterback at least once, had a pass defense, batted that ball, forced a fumble, was crushing the pocket all night long. If it wasn't for the injury to Willie Gay, I think that they would have had even Josh's scrambles a little bit more under control, because the pocket was simply being collapsed down around him. And that's how you have to play Josh Allen. I thought the game plan was great on the defensive side. I thought you got contributions. You got Trent McDuffie nearly with his first interception. Would have been huge at that point. Yes, L'Jarius Sneed gave up his first touchdown of the season to Khalil Shakir, a beautiful dime on a beautiful catch. I can't put
nothing
anything
he
on
could
him
do.
for that, right?
No,
Yeah.
there was nothing he could do on that. That is just absolutely. There was only one place on the field that Josh Allen could possibly have thrown that ball, and his receiver made an all-pro catch. I mean, there's nothing L'Jarius Sneed could have done there.
Well, and I will say, I do think that Willie Gay playing this entire game changes the score for Buffalo, because you saw the adjustment after, what was it, the third quarter, that Spags actually put Chanel in and actually had him spying Josh Allen, and that completely changed how successful they were able to be driving the ball against Kansas City.
I completely agree with you. When you take a look at the totals, I know it felt like the Bills just ran all over them. In the end, rush yards, 146 for the Chiefs to 182 for the Bills. The average for the Bills came down to 4.7 in the end. I still feel that that's a victory for the Kansas City Chiefs defense. And I think that also brings balance to this game that they have to have going into the next ball game. We're going to see what that cost is and how they can double down on it. Coming up next, we'll see who's in, who's out for next week's AFC Championship game. Now, this is a lot of action. Next week's going to be more against the Baltimore Ravens. It is set up, and if you want to get into the action right now, tonight you can get signed up even at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because they are giving new members the best deal ever, $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Not win one, just place one. You get that $150 back in bonus bets win or lose, no matter what. It's super simple. The app gives you all the ways to win same game parlays. You can get in the Explore tab and find all kinds of bets. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub. Best way to find all kinds of popular and unique parlays, plus the money lines, the props, the whole 9 yards. It's all at FanDuel.com/lockedon. All you got to do is go make a $5 bet, and you're in like Flynn at FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Now, tomorrow, folks, we're going to be breaking down all the snap counts, who's in, who's out. We'll give you injury updates when we get them, so make sure that you like and sub and hit that bell here. And join us over on Spotify and Apple and all the audio platforms, as well as checking out the Locked On Sports Today show, which you'll see some friendly faces over there, as well as it is a 24-hour feed. It will feature both of us from time to time, as well as everybody else here on the network. Now, what I know this is pretty unusual. We don't generally look ahead to the next week on the Sunday night post game. But this is important because the cost could be significant. Mike Edwards plays a significant role. When he went down, it got very dicey with Deion Bush coming in. Shamari Connor had a couple of missed tackles tonight. I applaud him for the effort, but that was a liability at this point. It had to settle down. Thankfully, it did this game. That could be a big one going forward. Willie Gay, Joe Thuney, a number of injuries, and a number of guys, honestly, Matt, that got hurt and came back on. Joshua Williams was one. We saw several guys leave, get checked out, and be able to return to the game. But in terms of the cost, I don't feel that they gave away much in their game plan. I didn't see any tricks that really threw me. A couple of nice little wrinkles, but they were subtle. It's all about the personnel to me. Am I missing anything about what this game might have cost going against the Ravens next week?
No, I don't think you are. I mean, certainly, Shamari Connor getting forced into action. He had some good moments and bad. I mean, did he have a couple of missed tackles? Sure. He also had 10 total tackles. He did give up 3 catches, but for only 12 yards. So he wasn't giving up a ton of yak there. It wasn't a perfect game. Hey, would Mike Edwards have been more effective? Probably. But I'm going back to the last time when the Chiefs lost Brian Cook and the adjustment period that they went through before things kind of solidified with Mike Edwards. Tell you what, I mean, I think they solidified a lot faster tonight with Shamari Connor stepping in. And hey, is that the adrenaline of the moment coming in and the situation? Good chance of that. I mean, you would love to have Mike Edwards back. Willie Gay, we'll see. I mean, he tried to go with the neck injury that popped up on Saturday. Haven't heard all the details on that. I don't know if that was something that bothered him on Friday and just didn't end up in the injury report because it wasn't really bothering him until Saturday. We sometimes see that. The one to really watch that could be problematic is Joe Thuney. When you hear a peck for an offensive lineman, your thought process usually goes to the worst direction because that can be something that obviously could be long term, but for Thuney's sake, I mean, that can immediately zap a lot of your strength, and it can make you a one-armed offensive lineman, and you can sometimes play through that. And Joe Thuney's a tough guy. I mean, if he can play, he's going to. But if you're taking your all-pro and you're making him one-armed, I mean, that can be a liability. So let's see. That's the one I would be most concerned with. I mean, no knock on that Nick Allegretti. He's a good player. He's a reliable backup and a great guy to have as your 6th lineman. But Joe Thuney's an all-pro. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. So against Baltimore and that defense, you would definitely be missing him. There's some things that you can't do, especially you look at what the Chiefs did, in the run game today. That power toss that they ran with Pacheco several times, a lot of times that's Joe Thuney and Donovan Smith out there pulling on the outside and taking people down. And that's how valuable he is. So yeah, that's the one I think that could be the most concerning. So let's keep our eye on that one. If that's the extent of the Chiefs' injuries, I mean, they're going to be okay. Trent McDuffie went out for a little bit and it looked like they just had to retape his ankle, and he came back in and looked good after that. So you're hoping that's nothing too serious, but yeah, Thuney's the one I would be the most concerned about.
Absolutely huge injury if he's not able to go, and it is concerning because he is one of the toughest players that you see. He has not missed snaps, and for him to miss snaps in this game, in this type of game, is huge. So it is a question whether or not he's going to be available going forward, and I hope that he's able to find, it's not a tear, but obviously that's what you're worried about this time of year, or any time of year with a football player. So that's going to be something concerning. You look at going forward against Baltimore. Baltimore is a team that likes to run the ball. That is going to be concerning going in this game. I do think that the missing of Derek Nottie on the Chiefs defensive line is being overlooked a little bit. I do think that he would have helped against the run today. Not saying that it would have been a huge difference, but I do think he would have helped at least, slow him down a little bit more. But he looks like he had surgery, so I'm not sure he's going to be back. It's interesting they didn't put him on IR. Matt, do you know any more about that?
Yeah, the Chiefs really weren't pushed into a spot where they needed a roster position this week for Nottie, and at least the sense I get is they wanted to keep the window open for him as long as possible. I mean, remember, at this point in the season, if he goes on IR, it's season's over, so there'd be no getting him back for the Super Bowl if that's the case. Don't know the full extent of that issue, and and with him, I mean, it's been described as a tricep, maybe and sometimes it's described as the elbow. Whether that's something that he could play through with a brace, after a game or two. I mean, if that's the case that you could get Derek Nottie back for a Super Bowl with a brace, I think that you would try that, but I haven't heard anything specifically at this point if it's just a matter of the Chiefs wanting to keep their options open for Nottie or keeping their options open on how to use that roster space if and when they need it.
I think that's going to be probably one of the biggest questions. We're going to get updates for you, but this game was a success. Hopefully they're going to be able to get back in shape for this next ball game, but tonight is about taking that step forward, especially when nobody thought you were going to get back to the AFC Championship game, and now you've done that. Who stood out the most tonight in getting that job done? Matt, who gets your game ball?
Well, you could give it to a lot of different people. I know you guys are going to end up picking good people for yours too. But to me, I mean, for all of it, I mean, Chiefs don't win this game if Patrick Mahomes is not their quarterback. The numbers weren't super gaudy. I mean, this is not the team that Patrick Mahomes is going to be putting up 400 yards and 6 touchdowns. It's not the way that this team is built. It's not the way the offense is built, and that's not the kind of complementary football that you play when you have a defense like this. But that was a near perfect performance tonight. There weren't really any mistakes that I can really point to. Hardly any quibbles I think you can make with his decision making. There weren't any balls that were put in harm's way. I mean, you talk about the turnover worthy plays. I don't remember seeing any of those from Mahomes. He did have a couple through some tight windows, but they were not in any danger. Buying some time and finding Rashee Rice on that one extended play was fantastic. The first one to Kelsey for the touchdown, wide open. I mean, that's just great play execution from those guys. I mean, I and even the decisions to run. I mean, I think he made good choices there, and as far as how he executed and getting it done, when you, as Chris noted, only have 4 third downs, meaningful third downs in the entire game that you have to face, it's because your quarterback was making good decisions all night long. So I can't fault anything. The reason why the Chiefs won this game was Patrick Mahomes.
And in his left-handed throw, sorry, I just have to throw that out there because he
saved the sack in the field position, and he couldn't have thrown that away right-handed.
Nope, it was great.
Kenneth, thank you.
Ryan?
Kenneth, thank you for the update. I'm going to stick on the defensive side of the ball because I think that's really what's been churning this one. And you guys know how I feel about defense. If it wasn't for that, it wouldn't have allowed Patrick and the offense to evolve to the point that they are right now. And tonight was a serious blow. Losing Brian Cook weeks ago was tough. Losing Mike Edwards tonight was tougher.
Huge.
Yes, Chamari Connor stepped in. Yes, Deion Bush stepped in. There were other DBs going down. The guy who held it all together and came out ahead with 11 combined tackles, that's Justin Reed. All over the place, coming downhill, playing deep. He was everywhere. He was the glue that kept it together, and I think that gets a game ball from me tonight.
Yeah, he's a team leader, and he had a fantastic game. I loved what I saw from him. And I have to say, watching Chamari Connor, the way he's been able to come through his rookie year, has been fantastic, something a lot of fun to watch. And I wonder if, with the loss of Mike Edwards, if they felt like they couldn't put Deion Bush in a scenario where they were going to, be sending people more than they normally would, because it didn't seem like they really sent many blitzes in this game. My game ball is going to stay on the opposite side. I have to give it to Pacheco. He was just a man possessed tonight. He just ran so well. What was it? 15 carries for 97 yards, 6.5 yards a carry. Hard to beat that. And I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to give a honorary game ball to Harrison Butker, because you saw what the wind was doing in that stadium. He absolutely has been nails for the Chiefs and has been huge all season long. improved his worth in tonight's game.
Yeah, there were several players that stepped up when they had the opportunities. MVS is one that I see people in the chat. Folks, if you're live with us, that's a great way to interact. We try to take questions on some shows. These live post games, we can't get to the questions because we have too much to cover, but we do appreciate you being with us live. That's here on the channel every time, so make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell. If you're listening afterwards and you want to hear the audio version, if you're listening on the way to work, make sure you get on Spotify and Apple and all the audio platforms because we're free everywhere all the time, and that's the way it's going to stay. We have a great show for you tomorrow. We're going to run down all the snap counts, injury updates, everything going forward from this ball game. It's a quick turnaround. We got to start talking about Baltimore, so we're going to be on that as well. Matt, thanks for staying up with us late. We very much appreciate all your insight. Thanks for being here.
Always a pleasure, and we'll get do it again one more week at least.
Hey, one more time, folks. Check out the rest of the Locked On Podcast Network, including the Locked On Sports Today feed. That is 24/7. I think you guys will dig it. I'll be over on RGR Football after this. You can check us out there. Thanks for being with us. Go to Chiefs Corner. Chris will have something for you coming up. Thanks for being with us live post-game, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.